Good morning, everybody. It's Matthew Lee with the Tao of Kung Fu, and today I'm going to talk about doing some exercises to help open the hips, which will help you with power generation, and it'll help with better accuracy and control and speed of kicks. Exercises are meant to either create some flexibility, strength, coordination, balance, that type of thing. You're either working on like a fine motor skill or a large strength motor skill. The hip openers are dealing with one of my favorite philosophies of training, which is work on the weakest areas of the body. If you've got big, huge biceps and shoulders and triceps, but your wrist is really weak and you hit something and shatter your wrist, it doesn't matter if you shatter your target. If there's more than one opponent, you're in big trouble because you just lost one of your weapons and one of your defense capabilities. So you want to develop the weak parts of the body, and of course, because a lot of our power comes through the hips, if the hips are really, really rigid and brittle, and those joints are locked up and you have a lot of trouble moving and kicking, then you're losing a lot of power. It could be a reason why you're having a lot of difficulty with balance, and it will help by training these to give you a lot more fine motor skill, to where fine motor skill means that little bit of precision muscle action so that you're coordinated, which means better accuracy. And accuracy is super important when you're talking a confrontation. If you're talking basketball, it's pretty important, but the ball is still just like maybe half the size of the hoop, so you've got to be pretty accurate. If the hoop was only barely this, the circumference of like 4 or 5 inches of the ball, and you had to bounce it off the backboard and balance it on the hoop, you would have to be 100 times more skilled with accuracy. That was a really weird analogy. That's what happens when you make things up right on the spot. When you're training, these exercises that work the hips are really, really important because they help you with a lot of skill. And you'll find that many things we do throughout the day really work against this as far as hip flexibility goes. Sitting for long periods just makes you tighter and tighter. Walking will not really open these areas. They make you tighter and tighter. Climbing stairs, really there isn't much of anything that opens the hips unless you're focused on it and you're doing it on purpose. Exercises like yoga or dance or something like that, martial arts, that are focused specifically on opening the hips up. So I'll give you a little burst of exercises that I use on a daily basis to open my hips, especially class time. I'm here before class today, and so I'm going to do my hip openers, and then my kicks are going to be beautiful, gloriously beautiful. And all the people that show up for class today are going to be like, man, Matt can kick, and his kicks are gorgeous. But don't tell them when I wake up in the morning my kicks aren't that gorgeous. I have to do some exercises and get them up and get them opened, and then get some blood flowing and get a little bit of flexibility, and then I can fool everybody. So that's my goal for today. So let's get on some. For my hip opening exercises is just some squats, and I usually start with my feet about shoulder width, And it's up to you if you want your toes to be forward or out just a little bit. You just have to remember the knees have to be going the same way as the toes. So if the feet are forward, it's okay to have the knees forward. But if the toes are facing outwards, you can't have the knees pointing forward. You have to push the knees open outward. And that's actually one of my first hip opening exercises is little by little, I widen the foot and I widen the hip to where I'm doing this. So all I did was I pivoted on the heel to open the toes out. It's called just a toe out, like with Bagua. It's a toe out move. And then I pivot on the ball of the foot and I make them straight forward again. So kind of like a little hung family movement, like tiger crane. Now here, I'm not just keeping the back straight and the arms out in front for balance, but I'm actively working the hip muscles. So I'm pushing outwards with the knees. I'm not just static and using the thighs. I'm actually not even really focusing on the thighs. They're working whether I focus on them or not. I'm focusing on pushing outward this way and getting a good hip flexibility here. And then I might go one more time toe out. And I'm still opening here, and then one more time heel out. This one, usually you can't go down as low. So it's a smaller movement, but it's affecting deeper and deeper into that muscle. So you're getting more circulation and more action in that joint. Here, I just drop down to one side, and I lift this foot. Now the idea with this is to keep the back straight, to keep this heel on the ground. This joint is closed. So these are pinched. It's not open this way. And by being closed, it helps keep the knee healthy. But I'm also looking at my toe line, my knee line rather, which means that if the bone in the knee kept going, if the bone through the upper leg keeps extending, that it's pointing out through the middle of the foot. It's not in this way, which can do damage to the inside of the knee. I'm posting my hand here, and I'm using my elbow to open up and get this hip stretched through here. So it's really working the inner groin and that hip joint in here. I can lever this way, and then I'm leaning forward, which gets into this hip of the extended leg, just like that. And I just work back and forth this way, so I come up, close this knee joint, and at first you might have to start back this way, and just pushing or pulling on that leg, and then little by little, as your hips open, you'll find that you can start moving your hands into the front and extending down this leg. Eventually you can even sit on the sit bone, and like yoga, you can grab and lift this heel up and lift the elbow high and lean yourself into this. This is a really, really good warm-up stretch. I love this one. It's really excellent. So that's the second one I do after my squats. I've got a little bit of blood flowing from the squats. I've got a little bit of stretch in the hips. So the next thing I do is like a modified butterfly stretch or a modified crow from yoga. And what I do is I come up on the ball of the feet and I point the knees as far left and right as possible. So I have the legs really spread here, and then I post my hands out in front of me and I lean into my elbows. And I like this one a lot because it just gets a different angle where that's more on top of the thigh, inside but on top. You keep your back strong and long, and I'm leaning in this way. You can even come up and balance and just relax into this. I'm not just pressing into the thighs, but I'm actually pressing outward with the elbows as well, which kind of gives that extension throughout the hips and makes them open up a little bit more. That's really, really crucial for hip opening is working on the outer thigh. This is one that I have a lot of trouble with because when I'm sparring, I have a tendency to take a lot of kicks here. Most of us that are doing something similar to Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, MMA type of stuff, or regular sparring that's semi-full contact, take a lot out here on the outer thigh. So you really have to take care of this IT band. That's a really long muscle that goes from the knee up the outside of the thigh, across the hip joint up here and ends up in here. So one of the best things for this is a seated spinal twist to our yoga, where you go one leg extended and this one goes across and flattens out on the upper part of the thigh. So my knee's here, this one's up above the knee. And then what we're going to do is you can either start just by hugging the leg here, which I really like. And what I like to do here is I like to press my head high so the crown point of the head is the highest point and it's pressing upwards. And I just breathe, and you really want to feel this down here in the hip. This is where it bites, and it's excellent. Once your hip opens a little more, you want to keep that upright spinal posture, and you want to post back behind, and you want to start twisting to the rear. Now, a key element of this is that I'm not twisting with the lower part of the spine, but I'm up straight and I'm kind of even pushing forward with my hip this way, and I'm twisting more in the middle of the spine. And once you get flexible enough, you can actually put this elbow and grab this opposite leg, or grab your gi pants or your sweatpants, or you can even post on the floor here. But the key is that you want to keep the back pretty straight, and you want to feel that good stretch.